welcome back to my channel, My Montana Kitchen. My name is Sarah Hardy and I'm the blogger and creator here at My Montana Kitchen YouTube channel and also mymontanakitchen.com, where you'll find hundreds of delicious, family-friendly, healthy recipes that you can make any day of the week. Today, I want to show you how I typically use sourdough in any given week. I usually bake with sourdough about once a week, and other than that, my starter lives in my refrigerator. I have a whole video about my zero discard starter method, and so you can check that out above. But I just thought I would bring you along and show you what a normal cook day looks like for me whenever I'm doing sourdough. So today I'm gonna make two different types of bread. I'm gonna make a sandwich loaf, and then I'm also gonna make an artisan bread, but I'm going to bake it in a regular bread pan instead of making a circular or oblong loaf. So I'm just gonna kind of test some things out. So you can come along with me and see how my experiment turns out, or flops. Either way, you can come along. First, we're going to mix up the artisan loaf. So I have my scale, I have my bowl on my scale, I have it tiered to 0, it's set on grams. And the first thing I'm going to do is add water. I often, because my filtered water comes straight from my refrigerator, I will put some filtered water in my electric tea kettle and warm it up just to like 90 or 100 degrees, just so it's warm, not freezing cold right from the refrigerator. I don't think that's absolutely necessary to do, but I feel like it kind of gives it just a little bit of a kickstart. So that's why I do that. Okay, so I have water, and then I got just a little extra in there. Okay, then I'm gonna add my starter, tear my scale back to 0. Now this is starter that I fed last night. I took it out of the fridge. If you watch the video I referenced earlier, you'll see all about that and how it works. But I took it out last night and I fed my starter last night. So this morning it was risen and active and bubbly and ready for me to use in a recipe. All right, so there's my starter, and then next I'm just going to add my flour. Tear the scale back to 0. I use unbleached all-purpose flour. This particular kind I got from an Amish bulk food store, but I've used Walmart brand, I've used organic, I've used all different kinds. So whatever you want to do is fine. Then I'm just going to give it a good stir. Okay, there we go. I get all of this off that I can. All right, and I'm going to cover it with a towel, and then we'll go on to mixing up the sandwich bread. some cotton jar and some nuts. Okay, we're gonna add honey. Then we're going to add salt. Mix it really well. And then we're going to add flour. The recipe that I have linked below actually makes 2 loaves. I'm just making 1 this time around. I did not put enough flour in there. I only put half the amount. No wonder it's not looking right. Okay. Let's try this again. That should be more like it. Okay, now I know that looks kind of dry, but it will be okay. Promise. As it sets, it's fine. That's what it's supposed to look like. Okay, then I'm going to cover this one with a towel also, and then we'll check back in half an hour. It's been about half an hour, and this is the sandwich bread. So I'm just going to do 1 set of stretch and folds. I put water on my hand because I find that helps it not be quite so sticky. And the dough's looking fine. It's already starting to look more like actual bread dough. I do a little bit more. Just make sure there's no big lumps in here. And then I'm just going to leave this alone until maybe around supper time tonight, when I will shape it in a loaf pan. But I'm not going to do any more stretch and folds. I'm going to call that good. This bread is so simple. It is so easy. Again, the link to the recipe is in the video description below. I hope you'll give it a try. It's my family's favorite sourdough recipe. Okay, then we're going to do the artisan bread. And I'm going to add some salt. Again, get my hand wet. And then I'm just going to do some stretch and folds on this bread and incorporate the salt while I do that. Okay, I'm going to cover it, and then I'll do another set of stretch and folds in a little bit. It's been another half hour, so I'm just going to do another set of stretch and folds. This is the artisan bread. I just get underneath of it, lift it up, shake it a little bit, fold it over. That's all there is to stretch and fold. All right, cover it again. It's been about an hour or so. I'm going to do another stretch and fold. The dough is feeling much better already. Nice and elastic. Okay, I cover it. Then I'm going to do another stretch and fold in about half an hour. It's almost time for the final stretch and fold for the artisan bread. And I'm going to try to put some inclusions in it. So I'm going to add cheddar cheese and fresh jalapeno. And so the next thing we're going to do is get those ready and prep to go in the artisan dough. I'm just going to cut smallish chunks. I'm not going to shred it. I'm going to kind of chunk it. I don't really have a set amount I'm going for. I'm just going to use my heart, which I measure a lot of things by heart anyways. I'm one of those funny people that don't measure vanilla, or is it the funny people that do? I don't know. We've talked about that on this channel before, but I don't ever measure vanilla. And cheese? Who needs to measure cheese either, right? All right, so here's some smallish chunks of cheese. I'll break them all up fully before I put them in. And then for the jalapeno, I'm just gonna slice some kind of thinnish slices. I'm gonna leave the seeds and everything in them. Okay. I am going to chop it just a little bit. I don't want it chopped a whole lot. Maybe I'll just kind of leave it like that. Then I'm going to get a paper towel and just kind of get a little bit of the excess moisture out of those peppers. Because if there's too much extra moisture in the bread, it might make it soggy or gummy, and that's certainly not what I want. Okay. Now, let's see about adding this to the bread. Here's the dough ready for its final stretch and fold. So I'm just going to kind of drop a little bit of this cheese in before I do a stretch and fold. Just breaking apart those little chunks that I had cut up. Put about half of it in now. And then I'll save the other half to put in a little bit. And then get about half the jalapenos and put in now. Maybe a little over half. Okay, let me get my hand wet again, because that works best for stretch and folds. And then I'm just going to kind of do some coil folds. So that's basically means what I'm doing right here. You can see me doing, just kind of grabbing hold of it at the bottom, picking it up, jiggle it a few times, set it back down. Then I'm going to add the rest of the inclusions. So the cheese, try to break these little lumps apart. And I have made artisan bread with cheddar and jalapeno, but I've never been very satisfied with the end result. I feel like it didn't bake properly. I don't know. So I'm just going to try something a little different. Again, this is an experiment, so I have no idea how it will turn out. All right. So then for the rest of these, I'm just going to kind of manually do it with my hands. The dough is looking fabulous. All right. I think, let's see here. Oh boy, now it's all falling apart. So let me get it clumped back together in a good ball. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put it in a loaf pan. So let's get the loaf pan ready. We've talked in another video about these pans in my sandwich bread video. These are called USA pans. They're stainless steel. Love them, love them, love them. And I used to use like a cooking spray on them, and you see that did not do it any favors. So now I just use butter, and it works amazing. I just rub the stick of butter all around, on the bottom, on all the sides. You just want to get all of the pan nice and buttered. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get this dough out onto the counter and work it just a little bit. It's not super sticky. It's a little bit sticky, but it's not too bad. All right, so I have it just kind of out on the counter, and I'm just going to kind of shape it. Look at all that stuff in there. Even if it doesn't turn out like, with the perfect rise, I think it's going to taste amazing. This will be great for sandwich bread or to make a grilled cheese. Oh my. Okay, that's kind of how I shape my sandwich loaves. I don't really do anything fancy. I'm going to tuck the ends in here. And then I'm just going to put it right in this prepared pan. All right. I'm going to let it bulk ferment in this container. I'm just going to cover it and let it sit on the counter. Here we are hours later. 7 hours maybe. And you can see it's already risen all the way to the top. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bake it tonight instead of putting it in the fridge overnight, because I think it would continue to rise in the fridge and it would overflow. So I can see some air bubbles here. I'm just going to pop the big ones that I can visibly see. There'll probably be some inside too, but that's okay. Okay. And then I'm just going to snip it across the top. It's too soft to score properly, like with a lom. So I'm just going to snip it across the top, kind of like that. And then we're going to bake it and see what happens. Then the other loaf, the sandwich bread loaf, has been sitting that same amount of time. And you can see here it is perfect. So I'm going to first butter my baking dish, like we talked about earlier. And just make sure that you get as much of the pan as you can, especially in the corners and on the bottom of the pan. That's why using a stick of butter is so nice for it, because it just fits right into those corners. All right. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of flour on the counter, and then I'll turn out the dough and we'll shape it. Now this one I am going to put in the fridge overnight, and then I'll bake it tomorrow morning. Just stitch it over, back and forth, and then I roll it. Okay, I'm going to put it in the pan, kind of push it out in the pan as much as I can, and then I'm going to put it in a Walmart bag, tie it up, and I'll put it in the fridge overnight, and I'll bake it tomorrow morning. It is the next morning. Last night I baked the jalapeno loaf and I burnt it. So I have a couple of things I would do differently, and I'm going to tell you all about that in just a minute. But let's look at the inside. My husband cut into it this morning for breakfast. So this is what it looks like on the inside. I have some big holes. That's okay. You can see some cheddar, you can see some jalapeno, but next time I think I would definitely chop the jalapenos a lot more finely, and maybe put a second jalapeno in, not just one. I think I would do 2 full jalapenos and chop them more evenly, or smaller is what I'm trying to say. Okay, but the flavor of this is amazing. So now let's talk about what I would do different. So I baked the artisan bread in a loaf pan. However, I still baked it at the same temperature as I would normally use for a Dutch oven. I baked it at 450. In retrospect, I would bake it at 400, which is what I'd normally bake my sandwich loaves at in an open pan. I would definitely bake it at 400, not 450. And I think that would help a lot. Not only did I burn the top of it, and there's ways to fix that or to prevent it from happening in the future. I'll talk about that in a minute. But the outside edges are really crusty also. So I think that would definitely help. I have seen people, if they're baking in a loaf pan at a very high temperature, to invert another loaf pan on top of the one that they're baking. And then they can take that off at the last few minutes to brown the top of the bread. I may try that next time. So again, this was an experiment. I have never done it quite like this before. So I'm just testing things out in my own kitchen. And I thought I would bring you guys along for the journey. So in retrospect, I would probably cover the top of it. I would bake it at a lower temperature, and I would add more jalapenos, but finely chop them instead of leaving big pieces. I would chop it a lot more finely. But all in all, I'm not sad about this. I'm not mad about this. The flavor is very, very good. So, all right, now let's talk about the second sandwich loaf that I fixed up yesterday. It's been in the refrigerator all night. And it's almost risen to the top of the pan. So I'm going to go ahead. I have my oven preheating. And then I'm going to score this one. And if you would like a bread lamb like this, I have them available in my store. They're linked below. You can check that out. And I'm just going to do a quick score across the top, so that as it expands, it will have some room to expand. Okay. I baked the second loaf of bread, the sandwich bread. This is my family's favorite sourdough recipe, period. It's a sandwich loaf. I use those USA pans. It gets a nice tall rise. But it is just, this recipe is so soft and fluffy and just so good. So let's cut into it and see what it looks like here. Look at that. It's so soft. It has good spring. I don't want to smash it too much because it's still warm. But it's definitely our favorite sourdough recipe. So turned out great. So there you have it. A day in the life of my sourdough starter. This was my baby starter, Betty Bubbles. I call her my baby starter because she's my newest starter. She's not really a baby anymore. She's a couple months old, but she's doing very well. And yeah, this is what a typical week looks like for me making sourdough. I usually only bake one day a week, and I'll make a couple of loaves. Sometimes I'll try out some variations. Now, there's obviously sometimes that I bake more than that. Last week, I didn't make anything with sourdough. So it's all about how to make it fit in your own life and your schedule. That's why I'm all about eliminating the stress from sourdough and just keeping it simple. So I hope you enjoyed this video. The links to both of those recipes, the artisan bread and the sandwich bread, are in the video description box below. So I hope you'll check those out and come back next time for another video.